In this video, we're going to talk about the three biggest risks to small and medium businesses in the next few years and how to overcome them. Brilliant. Since 2008, or if you take it beyond like kind of like the outside of coming back from the recession, so 2010 through 2021, of just continuous growth in the economy, which is amazing. And yet, when you look at the statistics and you start diving a little deeper and you look at, okay, how are small and mid-sized companies are doing, it's very, very alarming. So as an example, one of the pieces of statistics between 2010 to 2019, 39.8, so almost 40% of mid-sized companies reported a loss. 33% reported year-over-year decrease in sales, and 47%, so half the companies, reported a decline in profits. So that's crazy. Think about it. Half the companies declining in profits, but the even scarier part of it is the rate in which companies have went bankrupt. And we're talking, small to business in the US. Some of those medium businesses are pretty freaking big, right? And some large companies went down as well. Very recently, you're talking about companies like JCPenney, that went under. So some really big companies went under as well. So if you're looking at the rate of bankruptcies, it went up and up and up during this decade, where the worst year until 2020 was 2016, with 32 bankruptcies of mid-sized companies in the US. And again, these are not $5 million companies. These are $500 million companies or $1 billion company that went bankrupt. So 32 in 2016, but the median for this decade was 11. So 11 companies roughly every single year until 2020. In 2020, again, pandemic kicking in, the world coming to an end, everybody's moving to digital, or everybody who could. And then 43 companies went bankrupt before December. So the actual number is probably bigger than that. So we're talking about 43 companies went bankrupt in 2020 compared to a median of 11 in the decade before. So very alarming statistics if you're a small to mid-sized business.
The idea that when you're networking, you can bust out your phone and be like, oh my God, Isar, that's really interesting. You did this. Tell me about how you scaled that thing to 100 million. Click, share that thing on LinkedIn, right? Like, it's just very, very easy to create these little stages everywhere, and then share it. And the rest is just processes that you build around it. But people aren't seeing it that way. People are still thinking that, no, this is my like newspaper ad, when it can just really be the thing that you have to offer to everybody, right? Like this like value that you have to offer that makes everything seamless.
Yeah, I think if to tie everything together, it's maybe the greatest opportunity of the next 10 years, right? Because if anything, this is going to accelerate very, very fast. Everybody's that's on the tip of the spear of this is now already looking at Web3 and NFTs and crypto-based stuff. So that's kind of like the next evolution. But you have a lot of companies and a lot of businesses are still doing brick and mortar, pen and paper kind of stuff. And they see all the stuff that we're talking about as scary. Like, I don't have time for this. I'm like, if you don't have time for this, you will be out of business sometime in the next 5 years. And because the guy you're competing with is going to do this. And the people are going to get the value from him and they're going to jump ship. So I really see this as not the future, but the present, but also as the biggest risk and the biggest opportunity in the next 10 years for companies who really want to excel and really want to differentiate without adding a lot of cost, right? And I think that's the biggest thing that we're saying. This is not building a facility. This is not creating a team of 15 people. It's not. This is something. Yeah. I mean, what we're doing now doesn't cost a lot of money. Yeah. It's just building the strategy and the tools and the processes around it so you can do it in an efficient way. Which again, this is why we exist, right? Because it's what I just said, sounds easy. It's not that easy, but it's easy. It's doable. And again, if you start small, start with something, but be consistent in providing value to your potential clients. The mid-sized businesses in this context have it really the hardest of them all. Because if you're a really, really large company, two things happen to support you. One, your ability to access to capital are, I wouldn't say unlimited, but are the best of all of them, because you can raise money based on your existing operation. You have enough cash flow that you're generating, or you're sitting on enough cash to enable you to make bigger moves. The other thing is you have momentum that is very, very hard to stop, right? Walmart in a very bad year is still doing hundreds of billions in revenue in a year, right? So it's like, it's ridiculous how much money these guys make in a single quarter. And that enables them a momentum to keep on going, even in bad years. Small businesses, on the other hand, have the huge benefit of moving fast. You and I are really small business, but I run small businesses that did, again, $100 million a year. I could put 6 people on a call, say, tomorrow we're doing something else, and we would do that something else. The companies in between are kind of suffering from both ends. They're not big enough to have that crazy momentum, the crazy amount of cash. And yet, on the other end, they cannot move fast. So they're kind of stuck in this in-between world where on one hand, you're like, I want to change, but it's very, very hard to change. And also to change, I need this pile of money because the company is really big and I don't have access to this pile of money. So they're stuck in between these worlds that are kind of like losing on both ends of that equation. I think you got to look at this from a macro and a micro perspective. The macro perspective is, which industry am I in? If you're in retail, well, guess what? It will be hard for you to attract talent because retail is not doing very well. So I'm like, if I'm going to choose my career, I'm like, I don't want to go to retail right now. So one thing is what industry you're in. The second thing is, which is kind of like the surprise within, even if you're in retail, how are you positioned within your industry, right? So if you're a retailer that did a good transition to digital and can sell online and can deliver very well and have great customer service, then the fact you're in retail may actually be a benefit because a lot of other people are going to go out of business. Look at Amazon, look at Target. So two companies that actually did very, very well. Look at Walmart that actually did very, very well during the pandemic, while everybody else in the retail world have either gone under or is doing really bad. So how are you positioned within your industry makes a very big difference. The third one is really vision and mission. Everything is commoditized right now. Everything is commoditized, and you have a younger generation of Gen Xers and Gen Zs who really care. They really do care. It's not just a statement. They're like, I want to work for a company that's doing something good. And now they have an option because it doesn't have to be 10 minutes drive or 15 minutes or 40 minutes drive from their house. They can work for anybody because they can work from home. So the vision and mission of the company makes a very big difference. And the last thing I will say, and then I really want to hear your thoughts about this, is company culture. And company culture is not what you put on a poster on the wall. Is how, not you, but how your employees behave, and more importantly, how your employees project their culture to the outside world. Like if I want to go and work for a company, I'm not going to freaking Glassdoor. I'm going to look on LinkedIn and on Facebook on the employees of that company and see what they're doing. What are they posting? What are they sharing? How are they encouraged to do creative stuff and do interesting things and promote things, and what they say about their employer in chats rooms and stuff like that. All these things combined. So if you're positioning yourself in an industry that's growing versus shrinking, if you're positioning yourself as innovative within the industry, if you have the right vision and mission to attract people that you want to attract, and once you don't, even better, they're not going to be attracted to that. And if you can create a culture that projects integrity, that projects innovation, that projects this is a fun place to work, you will attract the right talent, and it becomes an incredible opportunity versus a downturn. Think about it. I come from one background of companies. You come from a very different background of companies. You've been in this industry. I've been in that industry. We could talk about the same topics, the same benefits, the same things about community building and so on in very, very different ways. And it will attract different people because of the context. And the people we attract are both, future employees. So talent, which is it's the real fuel of any company. Like, I don't care, yes, capital is important, and yes, the product is important, and yes, the markets are important, but the real capital of a company is the people you attract to your business, and the really smart people and the really creative people that will allow you to thrive regardless of what happens around you. So if you can attract those people and also attract the right clients, because each and every one of the people in the company is sharing it contextualized to different kind of people, you win on both aspects of the game. And so I 100% agree with you. The real genuine drive to allowing people to create content around what is your company, what is your culture, what are you, the little guy in, fifth level down from the CEO, what do you do? How do you enjoy what you're doing? Why do you come to work in the morning? What's your mission? What's your little vision in the world? Let them share that. And then that's how you win. And yes, it's going to cost you resources, but it's going to cost you a lot less resources than trying to attract talent in any other way.
We can talk about this idea of relationship building via digital mediums and whatnot, and it gives much value. How are you approaching it, right? Like, you had the big aha moment of the podcast. Why don't you talk about that?
So I want to say one more thing before I dive into this, which is just to complete what you said before. The future is this new generation. It's not the future, it's the present. I posted something that I found on Gartner. So Gartner did a research, and they found out that 83%, I'm now reading, 83% of typical B2B purchasing decisions, researching solutions, ranking options, and benchmarking pricing happens before a buyer engages directly with a provider. 83% of the research and decision-making process of buying something happens before they engage with your company. Yep. That means that if you're looking like, oh, these guys showed up on the website, let's retarget them, or, oh, these guys pick up the phone, let's call them back to see what they're doing if they're still interested. They already made the decision, or they're in one of the best and final, but you did not influence 83% of the process. So the question is, and going back to now what you asked, is how do you influence that 83%? And it's not sales, because it's before they don't want to talk to the salesperson. They want to talk to the salesperson when they want to buy. And again, it's like you said, it's that Amazon mentality. I want to click buy when I want to buy. I don't want to now start to figure it out. I want to figure it out before. So you're asking the right question, right? How do you influence this, and how I found about it? And the way I found about it is I sold a company. I was bored. I'm like, I want to talk to other business people. And I started a podcast because I wanted to talk to other business people. I had no agenda other than that. The first people I interviewed was friends and family, because that's what most people do when they start a podcast. And I'm like, I was on episode, 7 or 8. And I'm like, I want to go beyond that. I want to interview somebody big. I want to get somebody beyond my inner circle. And I like to listen to TED Talks. And I was listening to this fascinating guy called Isaac Litsky, who has an incredible life story as well as an incredible business story. And I'm like, I want to interview this guy, which is a really dumb thing to think. But yes, I'm like, this is the guy I'm going to interview. So I look him up on LinkedIn and I send him a message and say, hey, Isaac, it's Isar. I have a podcast. I would love to have you as a guest. And the next day there was an answer. Yeah, certainly. When do we do this? And, the first thing you're like, yes, this is amazing. It's awesome. It's like this big name. He's been on TED. He's getting paid like tens of thousands of dollars to fly around the world to speak on stages. And he's going to be on my podcast. And then the second thing I thought was like, what the hell just happened? Before that, I was running $100 million company. And some people would not meet with me because I was not important enough. And now I'm nobody. I have 7 episodes and 4 listeners. My spouse and my siblings were listening to the podcast. And this guy said yes. So if you have a stage, it's a magnet that nobody today can resist. If you have a stage and you're able to provide that stage to other people to share their experience, to share their knowledge, to share their thoughts, to share their feelings, to share with the world something that they have of value to other people, they get attracted to you regardless of anything. I've been now doing this for 2.5 years. Not a single person, not one, asked me how many people listen to my podcast before they said yes to come to the show. They want the stage. So if you can attract the right people to want to be on your stage and leverage that to build a community of those people, because the benefit of a community is there's a few benefits. One, it continues the conversation beyond the time you're on stage. And second, it becomes this snowball of energy that keeps on rolling and getting bigger and bigger and bigger on its own. Going back to the JWB example, right? You have JWB now has these meetups of people all around the nation that get together just to get together. But the context of getting together, oh, we're all JWB clients. And it's incredible as far as the power that it provides. And again, that's because it's a community and not an audience. Because if it was an audience, they would keep consuming the content. It was a one-way street.